What's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. I apologize if the audio sounds weird. I know the background is just a couple of hotel beds. I'm currently in a hotel, was not expecting to be recording today, out of town for New Year's Eve, but you know the NBA likes to be crazy because today, with no rumors leading up to it, no warning whatsoever, boom, Shams or Wojbomb or whatever, Anunoby is being traded to the New York Knicks alongside Precious Achiuwa and Malachi Flynn in exchange for Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and a 2024 Pistons second-round pick. It's a huge move, one that drastically affects the trajectories of both of these teams, and I think it's only the first domino to fall for both of these squads. We knew the Raptors were probably heading towards a rebuild, but again, this came out of legitimately nowhere, and the Knicks, who've been in a lot of star trade talks over the past few years, add a big-time piece in Anunoby, who is a free agent this upcoming offseason, so we'll definitely have to take that into account when we talk about the Knicks later, but he theoretically gives them a really good fit there at the 3 spot, and I, like the Raptors, think it's only the first of multiple trades we're going to see from the Knicks over the course of the next half year or so, trades that could potentially turn this Knicks team into future championship contenders. So we're going to talk about both sides, but first, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on the trade down below in the comments. So let's go ahead and kick things off with the Raptors side of things. For this, I think it's an absolute home run. Anunoby was an expiring contract. I don't think anybody thought he was coming back to the Raptors this offseason because they're clearly heading towards a rebuild. He can get a ton of money out there on the open market. It seemed like a trade was kind of inevitable, or the Raptors were just going to let him walk for nothing, which they did just do with Fred VanVleet last offseason, so it wasn't out of the picture. A couple years prior, they let Kyle Lowry walk in the offseason in a sign and trade for the Heat that did get them Precious Achiuwa, but overall, not as many assets as they could have got at the deadline, but it seems like they learned from their mistakes. They said, okay, we're going to go ahead, make this deal, get some value back for our expiring wing player that could be really good on a number of teams, and the Knicks put in a massive bid. Again, giving up Immanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and the 2024 Pistons second-round pick, which is probably going to be the 31st pick in the draft, so pretty much an end of first rounder, so I like that value, but probably my favorite part of this deal is the acquisition of Immanuel Quickley. I don't think a lot of people realize just how good Immanuel Quickley is, and those people are about to learn because he is in my opinion, for a massive breakout over the second half of the season for the Raptors, and you give it a couple years, there's a good chance that Immanuel Quickley is the best player coming out of this trade, and I don't think that's an exaggeration whatsoever. Last season, he finished second in Sixth Man of the Year voting, and coming into this year, I feel like he's been criminally underutilized by Tom Thibodeau and the rest of that Knicks coaching staff. He's a high-level defender, he's a high-level shot creator, shot maker, he can play make, he can do a little bit of everything, and his minutes have gone down from last year till now, and maybe part of that is the fact that it didn't seem like Quickley was going to be back. It felt like because they were going to have to give him a ton of money in the offseason restricted free agency, he was probably going to go ahead and walk, so maybe they were just prepping the rest of those guys for the future without Immanuel Quickley. I mean, very clearly they were at least considering trading him, but now that he's in Toronto, he's going to get to be a lead guard, which I think is a role he's very deserving of, and in that role, I think he's going to absolutely thrive, especially alongside Scottie Barnes. I think the two of those guys are a fantastic fit next to each other. They can both play on or off ball. Quickley is a shooter that can space the floor. His ability to attack downhill really, really quickly, I think will pair well with Scottie out there as well. They're going to be a good defensive tandem too. Like, those two guys are a great two players to build around for the future because Quickley is still very young. With Scottie Barnes breaking out to an all-star, I wouldn't be surprised if someday Immanuel Quickley joins him on that all-stars type level. He is truly a fantastic player. I'm buying all the stock in Immanuel Quickley. He's going to be a starter for them, and he gives the Raptors a guard that they can build around for the future. That was kind of an area of talent they were lacking in. They had Scottie Barnes as a wing. They had Pascal Siakam and Anunoby as, wings and forwards who could kind of fill the now, but now they've got a guard for the future who I think is going to be really, really good. Of course, you've also got RJ Barrett going over to Toronto. Being from Canada, this is pretty cool for him, I'm sure. I think he's going to get a lot of love from those Toronto fans, and I'm hopeful this could potentially be a turnaround for his career. In New York, I think there are a lot of stakes on him as the 3rd overall pick to become this 3-and-D perfect role player alongside Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, or maybe even eventually become an all-star. I think now a lot of the pressure is going to be off of him now that he's gotten traded. Worst case, it doesn't work out for the Raptors, and he's got a big contract that clearly you can trade in the future if they want to go out there and make a star acquisition. But hey, if it works out, you got a hometown kid who maybe fills in as a good 3-and-D player, just a bit of a do-it-all wing, and he could fit potentially really well next to Scottie Barnes. At the moment, the fit is kind of clunky, but again, this is a team that's clearly starting to rebuild. They're looking towards the future, and you've got a lot of time to wait and see if this thing figures it out. So hopeful RJ Barrett can turn things around, and even if he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. I love this return for the Raptors. I think it was exponentially more than I pictured them getting for OG Anunoby, who again is on an expiring contract. A lot of people are saying it's not that crazy because they didn't get like 3-4 first-round picks. That was never going to be the case, and instead they get some really solid young talent in the moment to help them build towards the future that could be staples of the rotation for the long term. Over on the Knicks side of things, I've got kind of some mixed feelings. On one hand, OG Anunoby is a fantastic fit for this team. He brings some much-needed perimeter defense and toughness to this squad, gives them a reliable shooter that doesn't need the ball in his hands, a great 3-and-D player who I think is going to excel playing off of Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. He's kind of the guy they were hoping RJ would become this season, and now they've got him on a decent contract. However, that contract is expiring. They're going to have to re-sign him. I would imagine they probably would, but it is a risk. There is always a possibility of him walking. Say he doesn't like his role, he doesn't like playing in New York. If OG Anunoby walks, this is kind of a disaster of a trade, but if he stays, I think it's pretty solid. However, this isn't the star trade that it feels like we've been waiting for from the Knicks for years. And the good thing about this trade, they didn't give up all their first-round picks that seem like the main assets in that star trade when it does come around. This is why I said I feel like this is only the first domino. They added a great complementary piece in OG Anunoby, but the superstar trade I think that they're looking for is still coming. This isn't the big move where they go all in. They've still got the assets to go out there and make another move with all those first-round picks with a young player like, say, a Quentin Grimes out there. They've also got some salary filler they can use. It does hurt them that they gave up RJ Barrett, who felt like the natural big contract for that superstar trade. They're going to have to find weird ways to make money work. Maybe Julius Randle ends up getting thrown into that deal, but regardless, they still have the ability to get a star trade done. And hey, if you're able to put another star next to Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, maybe Julius Randle, and keep some of your depth, this Knicks team could become really, really scary. So for now, I don't love the OG Anunoby trade. Part of it is because they gave up Immanuel Quickley, who was really good for this team. Like, I don't think people realize his big impact. He brought a lot of creation to this team off the bench, both in terms of himself as well as creating for others. They don't have a big scoring option off the bench either. Now they're going to have to stagger minutes a lot to try and ensure that there is offense when a lot of the bench guys are in. It is a little bit of a scary sight. I don't think Precious Achiuwa and Malachi Flynn move the needle much, if at all. They're both interesting players that have flashes, but they're not nearly consistent enough to be staples of this rotation quite yet, unless they come into this new environment and just ball out. That's always a possibility, but I think the Knicks are kind of still a work in progress. At the worst, I think this moves them laterally. It doesn't make them a championship contender or anything like that, but it doesn't really have to. Again, I feel like this is the first domino to fall. There still is the big trade out there, and the Knicks still have the assets to go ahead and do that. So I really like this trade if they do end up going and making a bigger one, whether it is at this deadline or in the offseason. But if OG Anunoby walks or they don't make that big trade anytime soon and OG does leave before they have the opportunity to make the deal, this trade becomes pretty questionable in my opinion. So those are my thoughts on the trade. Woj did say later on that Pascal Siakam is apparently also being evaluated in some trade scenarios. So I thought here at the end, I'd just throw out some teams that I really like for Pascal. First one that comes to mind is the Philadelphia 76ers. They got some expiring contracts back in the James Harden trade. They got some first round picks. They've got a young player like Jaden Springer who's interesting. Maybe Tobias Harris if they really want him over there in Toronto. Although I feel like they could get away with like Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, or Nick Batum, Jaden Springer, and some of those picks. Could be interesting if they want more of a draft capital oriented deal. Otherwise, you've got like the Indiana Pacers, who maybe you could try and get like a Jarris Walker away from, as well as some salary filler and some picks. You've got the Sacramento Kings. Maybe you get like Harrison Barnes back, as well as a young player like a Davion Mitchell, some first round picks, because the Kings also have a lot of those. Like, those are three teams I really like, but I feel like a number of teams out there, pretty much anybody that has a decent package, is going to be calling about Pascal Siakam. I know a lot of other Thunder fans are saying, hey, maybe we go out there and add him. I don't think the Thunder do that trade, but I don't think it's out of the question. You know, he would be good fit as a bigger presence in that front court, help out with the rebounding, improve the defense. The shooting isn't great. However, you put him in a new context outside of Toronto, I think that number comes up. So I'm really interested to see now where the Raptors go with Pascal. I'm so glad they blew it up. I guess they took my advice from my video a couple of days ago where I said they were wasting everybody's time by not making moves. They made the first move. We'll have to see what Siakam brings them later on down the line, how they shape this team around Scottie Barnes, but I'm way more excited now about what the Raptors are building over there. And for the Knicks, we'll see what OG Anunoby does. In the meantime, we'll have to keep waiting to see what that big superstar trade is that they go for, because there's no way they're done quite yet. With all that being said though, appreciate y'all watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Again, would love to hear your takeaways and your thoughts down below in the comments on this big time trade. And if you're the Knicks, who do you target as that next star piece for the Raptors? How good do you think Immanuel Quickley can be over there? And who should they trade Pascal Siakam to? If your favorite team is a candidate, what would you be willing to give up for Pascal Siakam? Yeah, appreciate y'all watching. Again, thank you for dealing with the whole hotel background and the audio lighting that probably isn't the best. There may actually be another video coming out tonight. I had a Thunder video recorded coming into today that I was going to edit before this news went down, so you may get 2 videos, but at the very least, you'll get a video tomorrow on New Year's Eve breaking down some bold predictions for next year, which, by the way, one of the bold predictions I had was that RJ Barrett was going to get traded. If I'd gotten that video out earlier today, I would have called it right away, but I guess I just didn't get it out in time, so that's on me. But for right now, I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.